Okay, for this episode, besties, we are going to do something really cool. I had a brand new real estate agent, my bestie Danila, interview me for you because guess what? I know that when you're new, there are just certain things that are swirling around your head. And instead of me trying to figure it out, I was like, let me bring my girl Danila on so that she can ask me any and everything because I know it will be beneficial for you. So Denila is an agent out of the Los Angeles area. When I say brand new, I'm talking brand new, hasn't closed any transactions yet, but she showed up and was such an instrumental part of a recent sneak peek week that we had that I was like, okay, we got to have her back on the podcast to interview me for you. So check it out. It definitely was one of my favorites. You got to stay to the end because a girl had me crying at the end of the podcast about just the biggest thing that I could ever give the besties. And yeah, it was just a really good episode. Hope you like it. Here we go.
Hey, besties, what's happening? Today, your girl, my name is Danila. I am taking over the Real Estate Bestie podcast. Oh my God. I get to be on with Rosemary Lewis. I'm so excited. I'm a new agent. So this one is for all you new agents who are new in the industry. I just got my license, still running around with my score. I passed. So we get to learn from Miss Rosemary Lewis about, what we should be doing at this point in our game, at this point in our career. Super excited. Welcome. Come on. Yes. Okay. Go ahead, Miss Rosemary.
Look, okay, y'all. So that's Danila. She is all the way hyped and ready to go. I met Danila a couple months ago when we did a sneak peek week of coaching. And I politely told Danila, like, yeah, baby, you ain't ready for coaching yet. Just because you're so new, right? Want to make sure that it's the best time. But she had so many great questions throughout sneak peek week that spoke to the brand new agent. And in my mind, I think I know what y'all thinking, and I think I know what you need. But I was like, what better support or what better experience would it be than to have a brand new agent still wet behind the ears here to ask all the questions? So, Danila, I am an open book. I want you to ask me any and everything, the things that you're thinking about as you are embarking on this real estate journey and your dual career. So, let's go for it, friend. What's your first question?
Okay, so my first question I want to ask you is what brought you to the business? I know you were like a teacher before, but how'd you choose real estate?
Oh, that is a really good question. I'm going to try and give you the short version of the story. So, long story short, my baby daddy, who ended up being my husband, he was has always been entrepreneurial from the time we were 15 and 17 years old, and he actually embarked on a career in real estate 25 years ago now because our son was, well, I think I was pregnant with our son when he got his first flip. After him doing a couple of flips, he did what most investors want to do. He don't want to pay a realtor. So so he asked me, voluntold me to get my license. And the only reason I was going to be licensed was for his flips. I had no, like, I did not want to be a realtor. I was just at the start of my teaching career, but ended up doing quite a few deals with him. And because we were at that life stage where a lot of our friends were buying homes and, getting married and starting their lives, I inadvertently helped quite a few friends. And let me just tell you, I was the worst realtor on the face of the earth because all of the different things that we do now just to make sure our clients get screwed or don't get screwed, I didn't do any of that. I don't even remember, like, none of it sounded familiar when I got back into business. So fast forward, those were the early 2000s, market crash in 2008. He and I both got out of the business. My heart was never in it. I was kind of happy to be out, just kind of happy to, just be boring and live, like, at least I wanted to be boring. I wanted an uneventful, regular, financially predictable life. But as fate would have it, he ended up getting back in the business a couple years later. And it still wasn't on the table for me, but it was something that I was kind of eyed at. I wasn't the best, but I'll tell you this, I was making money. That's what it was. And I was getting to the point where teaching, whereas I love the kids, I just didn't love not being away. I didn't love being away from my kids. I didn't love that I didn't have as much energy for home as I wanted to. And I knew God, and at this time I was starting to develop my relationship with the Lord. I knew He was calling me to do something, and I didn't know what. But I had just had some experiences of late of like not questioning when He told me to do something, right? To be obedient immediately. And I can't tell you how I knew, but I was literally on the balcony of my church one Sunday and I heard the Lord say, "Go help." I immediately knew that, that meant I needed to go help my husband in real estate. At least that's what I thought it meant at the time. And that day, my husband signed me up for classes, and the rest is history. So
Wow.
it was not something that I aspired to do, but it's something that was around me. So I was familiar with it. I knew that I had a skill set for it. And then when it was time for me to go, like God allowed my passion to line up with it.
That is so awesome and remarkable because I mean, like, you're a natural at this, you know what I mean? And so,
Nah. It looked like that to you
wait,
because you knew.
yes. Okay. Oh, okay, cool, cool. So let me ask you, you mentioned, you said it took a lot of your time up, like from your kids and stuff. How did you find a balance when you got back in to say, okay, how do I do this real estate thing and balance a family?
Yeah, so what I thought was gonna happen, right? Because one of the things that I will say attracted me to real estate was this thought of time freedom and flexible schedule. Like, if you I don't know if you've ever been a teacher, but don't get me wrong, everybody got some tough, like it's hard to answer to any boss or anybody else, but that teacher schedule is one for the books, right? Like you just saw me wolf down my lunch before we hit record in about 3 minutes. I learned that from being a teacher because we don't have a lot of time, like even, going out for lunch and things like that. So I remember being in the teacher's lounge and just watching moms come in with their yoga pants and dropping their kids off lunch. And I would just imagine, like, what would that feel like to have that flexibility in order to do that? And I thought about like how flexible real estate is. Well, what I figured out though early on is that that same flexibility, that sexy thing that drew me to the business, that could be my detriment. Because if there was not structure around the business, then, one of two things can happen. Either I would spend so much time working where I would not be focused on the other areas of my life because you can literally keep going and not turn it off. Or I would be so flexible in doing all the things and not having the structures that I needed to actually bring home money in the business. So early on, I learned the habit of time blocking. And that remains the bedrock of my business. Like you can't see it, but to the right of me, like I'm pointing to right now, is my time block. So when I got to the point where I learned how to tell my time where to go, I still do not have a balanced schedule because I don't believe in balance, right? If something is balanced, then it's not moving. But I have rhythms in my life, like rhythms. And that's the way that I coach and I teach how to establish these different rhythms. And I time block my schedule in the 5 F's: faith, family, fitness, finances, and fun. And I just work to make sure that all of those areas are represented from week to week. And in different seasons of my life and business, some have gotten more attention than the others. But that, in short, has been like what I have worked to do to make sure that I'm not, sometimes you get people, we see what real estate can provide for us. And I see so often that people are so focused on being successful and you get that success, but at the expense of why you want the success, at the expense of the family, at the expense of the marriage, at the expense of the friendships. And that's just not the business that I desired to build, nor the business that I have. So time blocking has really just helped me keep the main things while building the business that I have.
Okay. Well, that leads me into this. How did you decide? Like, you brand new. You're like, well, you did a little bit, you left, you came back, and you back in this thing. And so it's like time blocking is your thing. But how did you know where do I start? Like, what's the first thing I should do? Because there's so many things, right? It's like, oh, you
So
could do
many
this, do
things.
that, find what you love, and then do it. But how do I know what I love? I don't know. So, what did you do to say, okay, I'm starting here?
Yeah.
Rosemary is here. You know what I mean? And then move forward.
Yeah, because one thing I didn't add is that I was also in a new market, right? So in Chicago, I just was kind of alley-oop some deals because, these are friends I've had forever. But at the point when I started my real estate career, we'd only lived in Texas for like 3 years, right? And I remember that, Danila. I remember being so frustrated. Like every day I would wake up with all of this excitement and vigor. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, but I don't know what to do.
Right.
Like, and my form of lead generation for a good number of months was like going to Starbucks and trying to make eye contact with somebody, right? Like, Lord, I don't want to be a stalker, but can somebody please look at me? So yeah, so I played around with schedules. I think that when I really got it down was I joined a team. So I really did not have I was trying some structures, and I went to every class that the brokerage offered, and I downloaded every template. I even have a template if y'all want to download it. It's rosemarylewis.com/week to give you a template. But what really had me doing the template and to actually applying the schedule was being a part of a team. And it's not that the team, like, they didn't pick up the phone for me, but I had somebody to be accountable to, and that was just helpful for me. And in hindsight, right, like, I didn't learn anything new in terms of the scheduling and how to spend my time on the team, but to know that I was doing it in a collaborative fashion. And I had my team leader and the rest of the team looking for me to create some results. That is what worked for me going into it. And really, like, what I coach agents, because team isn't for everybody. So the way that I coach the besties is like making sure you're having conversations. So whatever your activities are, because there is so much to do, especially when you're getting started. I got to show up on social media, and I need to, develop my website, and I need to order my business cards, and I need to do all these different things. And what I figured out, and people said it, but I didn't really understand what they were saying. These were all like passive and administrative type things, which, yes, they do need to get done at some point. But if I'm not putting myself in places to have conversations frequently, then I'm going to lose. So that would be my advice to a new agent, is to, like, don't try to have it all figured out. Just start striking up conversation. I might even start striking up conversation even if it's not real estate conversations yet, just to get used to talking to people. And then I have a little ninja trick on how I turn every conversation into a real estate conversation. And then you just want to get better at the conversions. But I think a lot of times we try to figure it out all out at once, when initially it's like, where can you put yourself to have those conversations? And there are some ways. For me, it was open houses. Open houses were something that I did every single weekend, 2 and 3 per weekend, because I knew not only was I going to have a conversation, but if somebody was walking into an open house, then they were at some point interested in a house, right? So it allowed me to practice these real estate conversations on real people, which was way less intimidating than calling strangers, in my opinion.
Okay. So speaking of open house being an attraction, so did you automatically have clients for open house? Like me, I'm new, I don't have clients at this time. How did you set yourself up to still be able to perform in an open house when you don't have any clients right now to do
Yeah,
the
you
open?
don't need clients for open house. So the way that you do an open house is you need a house. So you need an agent who is willing to let you sit their open house, right? Or to sit their listing for open house. And
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you, like, as we are recording this, I'm in Texas. It is what is this? May of 2025. There are a lot of agents that would be like, yes, yes, like, I got some listings right now so people can sit for me, right? Because our homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer. And if you are a listing agent who has several, you can't be at all of them at once. So it is advantageous to have somebody sit them for me. So I would reach out to agents. Like, I would start with an agent in my market. 9 times out of 10, I will tell you, like, at my brokerage, only an agent who is in my brokerage can sit an open house for us. So I would start out with your office to see who has listings, and to say, hey, I'm happy to do an open house. Now, I know that some people are so overwhelmed. What do I do? What do I need?
Well,
If you have Yeah, if you have an opportunity to shadow somebody for an open house, like, hey, I would love to shadow you for your next open house, and then I can help you do a lot of them. I do have, like, we have different resources. I don't can't rattle them all right here, but I'll put them into the chat so that people can go back to it. But pretty much all you need: signs, you need MLS access so that you can advertise it. And then if you got a cute little Canva graphic, right, that you can post on social media. But the biggest driver is going to be posting it to the MLS earlier. And then also, if you have signs, I recommend having, 10 to 20 signs. And they don't have to be branded to you. For the longest, I just had signs that I had from Home Depot, yellow signs that were directional, that pointed to the house, and I want to be able to direct them. So what you're going to do is you're going to advertise that, the open house, advertise it within your office, advertise it on the MLS, advertise it on your social media, put out the signs, an hour, 2 to 3 hours before the open house, and then just go there and hold the door open. well, not literally hold the door, but you're going to be in the house when people come. And what's going to happen is all of that traffic that comes in, the people that are coming into the open houses, they don't have to be your clients, right? Now, double check what the rules are, because with the compensation and everything, there are some rules state to state on what you can do to sit in an open house. But the way it is here is, as long as I'm holding a listing open for where one of my brokers, like something that's owned by the broker, I can legally open that door and anyone can come in, will be able to see the house and I can connect with them. And that's a free way, that's a free way to not only, like, to this day, to me, that's one of the best forms of lead generation, because not only do you have an opportunity to connect with anyone who's walking in the door, but from a social media perspective, anytime I'm in a house, I get to video it, right? I get to do content inside the house. So, and that content can live on my social media pages forever. I can repurpose it. So it's just such a great way to get your face and your name out there. And it's free 99 outside of getting your signs.
Okay, cool. You just mentioned social media. How instrumental is it that you participate in social media? I'm like, I see you all the time and I love it. And I had to tell myself, hey, you somebody Rosemary Lewis though. So you got to kind of get on there. You know what I mean? So what tips do you have for the social media? If you're
Girl.
a person who does it, because I'm like, I gotta do it. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
what can you tell?
So my first tip is to reframe your mindset around it.
Okay.
Social media is such a gift, but it is a curse. Like, I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like, I felt so bad because I'm very forward on social media, and I'm just like, I'm to the point now where I'm just very forward in the community. So I saw a girl at church yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, like, I love your pants. They're so cute. She was like, Rosemary, you don't know me again, and I was like, oh. I was like, girl, y'all be changing y'all hair. And I know a lot of people. So as you start growing, like, the tough part is that you will begin to attract people that feel like they know you and you don't know them. But that's later on down the line. Like, that's a good problem to have, because you want to use it for what it's used for. And quite honestly, in the beginning, my only focus was showing up and developing trust, and trust as a real estate agent, because everybody that I knew in the beginning, they knew me. Like, I wasn't one of those people. I definitely wasn't as present on social media as I am now, but I was present. But people knew me as a teacher, right? And I didn't have to go on there and promote my teaching career, because I was gonna have a job no matter what. So my rub was, how do I show up as my authentic self and now present this new person, but still be who I am. And what I found is that video was such a gift. And initially, what it did was, it didn't connect me with brand new people who were not familiar with me at all, but it took people who would have forgotten me, and it showed them this new version of me, right? And it reminded them that I was a real estate professional. And I think I shared this I don't know if I shared it when we were in our sneak peek week, but one of the biggest closings that I had, like, every week, I used to do this thing called Friday Favorite, where I didn't have any, like you saying, I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know how to be a real realtor. So right, I had this bright idea that every Friday I would go on to a new construction, because I have a lot of new construction around us, and I would pick my favorite house for the week, and I would do a live stream video from that favorite house. And it's funny because I would go and be like, okay, out of all the homes I saw this week, this is my favorite. I wasn't really lying, because this was all the homes. This was the home that I saw this week, because I had no clients. So I would go and I would show, a new construction house every Friday. And then I would get, like, sometimes I would go preview a couple homes earlier in the week to pick one that was good. And, like, let's just say I'll snap a picture of the kitchen. So on Friday morning, I might just show you the picture of the kitchen, and I would put, like, hashtag Friday favorite, super, like, high tech back then. It was not, it was whack. But I would do a picture of the kitchen, and then I would be like, come back, at noon to see this whole house. Well, what that did was, it committed me to showing back up at noon online, right? Instead of punking out. And it actually created a little bit of a following. And one of my, like, the first time I sold a house over $500,000, literally, there were some friends that I used to teach with, and they just went to a builder and put my name down. I did end up helping them with the build process, but they were like, yeah, we would not have done this with anybody other than you. Like they called me after they put my name down, and they were like, we wouldn't have done this with anybody other than you because we know that you're an expert when it comes to new construction. I had never sold new construction at that price point
Oh,
before, but I
wow.
showed it every week,
Mhm.
and so I knew it. And that's something else too. Like, because at first I kind of felt like a phony. I was like, but no, even though I hadn't sold it, I'd been going in and out of these builders and understanding their product and, getting familiar with the areas for months. Even though I hadn't sold it, it didn't mean that I wasn't an expert, because when I didn't have nothing to do, I did that. So that is where, just an example of what I think social media can do. Do I think it's necessary? I think I know God, through God, all things are possible. However, I'm gonna ask you, like, if you were Danila, I don't know if you coming, but you better be coming to Texas for the real estate bestie experience in September. And if
Mhm.
I said, you know what, Danila, you really need to eat at this restaurant called D Lincoln, what's one of the first things you're gonna do when I give you the name of the restaurant? What you gonna do?
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna
You gonna
Google.
look.
Yeah, I'm about to be like, wait, let me see. Yeah,
You're gonna look it up. You're gonna look at
yeah.
the reviews, you're gonna look at the menu, you're gonna do your due diligence. And the
Mhm.
same thing happens with us as real estate agents, right? People are going to look for social proof. Are you who you say you are? Do you do what you say you do? And social media is such an easy way to give glimpses. Now I can't go all the way into it, but I do teach like how to be personable
Mhm.
without being personal, right? Because you
Mhm.
don't have to be one of those people on that boohoo and crying like Rosemary. um but there are definitely some days to connect, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about social media. I think that as you get more skillful and as you really define who you're going to be the best fit to serve, who and what your ideal client is, social media will help you, and showing up on video will help tremendously with weeding out the people who are not going to be a good fit and attracting the people who are going to be a good fit. So if I didn't want to be on video, we wouldn't be here right now.
Right, facts. That's
So,
true.
so that's
Okay, let me ask you a question. So they say like this industry is all about relationships, relationship building, right? How do you begin to do that? Or do you kind of serve people like you get a bunch of referrals? So, I mean, you're going to still build a relationship, but do you have to build relationships with new people you don't know? Obviously, too, right? Does that
yeah,
question make sense? You get what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. So uh, building relationships can be such like it can be such a ambiguous topic and such an ambiguous like direction. Just get out here and build relationships. What
Yeah.
does that even mean, right?
Right.
But here's the thing, we do it all the time. Either we building them right or we building them wrong.
Mm,
So, like Danila, I know that you're dual career right now, right? So
yeah.
you have another profession that you have been working. Is it safe to say that you have some relationships with people that you work with?
Yes, that's safe.
Right? Now, some of them may be, a little bit not as close, and some of them may be closer. Like everybody doesn't have to be your friend. I think I would say that. Like, and sometimes we think everybody that we deal with has to be our very best friend, but
Mhm.
no, it's just like what am I known for? When people think of me, but this is a better way of saying it. What is the experience like to be around you, right? And I just find that there are so many ways to build relationship everywhere you go. Like this morning, I walk my dogs. When I was walking my dogs, one of my dogs pooped. I picked up the poop with the dog scooper thing. Guess what I'm doing? I'm building a relationship with my neighbors because
Absolutely.
of the way that I'm caring for our neighborhood. Now there are other people who would keep it moving and not, not pick up the dog poop and like they don't care, they're thinking about themselves. Even when nobody's watching, I want to make sure that like I am caring for the people and the things around me. And how can we do that on a very tangible level? And like in light, you have probably been building a relationship with friends and family members, so now how do we do that with intentionality? So one thing, like I was just leaving my office, going to warm my lunch that I was running late to eat. And I saw I work in a co-working space.
Hmm.
So I saw a lady like coming in with her like lunch or whatever. She was coming in for the day. I intentionally was like, hey, how you doing? I hope you're having a great day. Right. And I could have walked past her, she was almost moving fast, like she didn't want to say nothing to me. And maybe she did, maybe she didn't, right? Maybe she was just busy. But I'm gonna intentionally, like when I see you, I'm intentionally say hi. I'm intentionally speak. For my clients, right? I'm gonna intentionally look for ways to provide value. And I know people say that very loosely, and we talked about that during our week together. So I'm gonna intentionally look for ways to provide value to you outside of what may be expected or required, but also not a heavy lift. So like if someone says, oh, I'm looking for a photographer for my senior in high school on social media, everybody's going to be commenting. I'm going to text that person if I know their name, and I'm going to say, hey, here is my photographer. He's great, blah, blah, blah. I'm happy to put you on a group chat with him. Oh, and by the way, one of my homegirls, she helps kids with scholarships. Here's her link. Whether she use it or not, I don't know. But that's the way that I want to help you beyond even what you asked for, because I know that a mom of a senior is probably thinking about college and how to pay for it and different things like that. So finding ways to just be a super solid person, really that's what it is to me. Like if you're just a super solid person that you thinking about others, like loving them as you love yourself, then the relationships will come naturally after that.
So, is there a certain quality or qualities that an individual possess where you feel like, yes, you're gonna be all right in this game, or this is probably not the industry for you? Just
Um,
Rosemary
Yeah.
Lewis
Yeah,
here.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, Danila, that is a very, very interesting question. And let me tell you the best thing that I could say. Like, I have seen some agents. I am an agent. Like, let me just say this. I didn't think I had what it took when I came into it. My goal was to come into this business, and if I could make the same $50,000 that I made teaching, then we were going to call that a win. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I had what it took, because what success looked like in real estate to me, the skill set, the personality, the way they walk, the way they dress, it felt so different from everything that I was at my core, that even I didn't think I had it, right? Like literally it was faith move by faith move by faith move. And I'm just kind of like, oh, this all this stuff is kind of working. And then it was like, okay, well, what am I doing to get the success and keep doing that? So I just say all that to say I don't want to pass judgment, because if I would have judged myself in this way, then I would have stopped long ago.
Mm,
But a key marker for me is when I hear, like, one of the hardest shifts that you will make as a real estate agent is shifting from an employee mindset to a CEO mindset.
mm,
Because when we are an employee, we are told what to do, told when to be there, told what, like we don't really even have to think. And even if something go wrong, it ain't really our problem, because especially if you kind of did your job.
mm,
When you are a CEO, you are in control. So it's not on your broker, it's not on the market, it's not on your neighbors, it's not on your sister who bought or sold with somebody else. So the sooner you shift from thinking like somebody's employee to thinking like your own boss,
mhm,
that is where I find the person is going to get the success faster. And even if that success isn't in the form of commissions yet, right? Just success in being confident in what they're doing and how they're showing up. When I talk to somebody and they, if they tell me they've been licensed for a year and these are all the reasons why they haven't even opened their mouth and had a conversation,
mm,
then I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, okay, because it's one thing, like it's one thing. I think about my girl Dominique. She was on the episode a couple weeks ago, episode 249. It took Dominique almost a year to close the deal, but she worked her business every day,
mm,
right? That's way different from somebody who's like, well, I had my license for 3 years and I closed. Like, they don't know their numbers, they don't know this person did this, my broker really ain't do that. Like when it's all of these other outside factors of why you haven't done your stuff,
mhm.
then to me it's like, yeah, I don't know if they are going to make it beyond being a part of the 87% who fail within the first 5 years. And I'm gonna say this too, this business, is not for everybody. It does on the inside, it does not look like, or it doesn't feel like it looks like on the outside. So
Wow.
I'll say this too, like if you get in it and decide like, I ain't really about that life, that's fine,
Mhm,
right? But just you need to take ownership for why it is or isn't working. And when I meet somebody brand new off the bat who's giving me all of these, reasons on why, they not succeeding and not taking accountability for not doing any of the activities, that's kind of like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I understand that. That's fair. That's fair. So, what are some common roadblocks you see, like mental roadblocks that newer agents tend to have? Do you see that often? Kind of like we all come around with the same little, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
little fear mindset kind of, how do you kind of navigate that and kind of switch that?
Yeah. Couple quick ones. Number one, thinking it all has to be perfect. I'm
Mhm.
afraid to say anything because I think that what if they don't know I know? What if they know I'm new? And you know, right? Or what if I don't know anything? Like literally in my consultations with my clients, I will say, you know what, I think I'm pretty good. However, I don't, and I think I know a lot, but I don't claim to know everything. So if there's ever anything that I don't know, one thing that I'll tell you is that I will get us an answer, right? So that takes the pressure off of me of trying to be the end all know all. And I often find that newer agents want to have everything perfect before they just start when
Mhm.
it's never going to be perfect and you're just going to suck. Like, get over it. You're going to suck in the beginning. But even if you suck in the beginning, you're going to get better. That's the thing about sucking is like you have a place to start. And we can create all this anxiety for ourselves trying to be amazing at the beginning. Like it would be impossible for Rosemary, who started real estate in 2017, to compare herself to Rosemary in 2025. We don't compare.
Right.
We I would do myself such a disservice, but with social media and all these other things, we think that if we don't come out the gate like her, which we don't know exactly what it took for her to get here, nor are we really inside her business to know what's really happening, because a lot of people will be out here false flagging. That's a whole nother thing. It will really set you up for failure. Another thing is that I think we overthink the most basic stuff. I used to overthink the most basic stuff, like just having a human conversation without sounding salesy. That's something that I see often. And then a huge mindset block is understanding that this is a business, going back to that CEO mindset. And because this is a business, you need to invest in yourself, invest in it as such, there is no other profession, right, that I'm aware of where when you really think about what it costs to start a real estate business, and like I'm just gonna shoot really high and say, like, let's just say it takes $5,000 to get started, which it don't take that much, right? But after your courses and after you buy signs and lock boxes and blah 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 blah, to immediately go into a field where you have the ability in most of our markets to make five figures a check, you know what I mean? Like it takes doctors years to turn that type of profit, but you can't even get realtors to, invest in a CRM for $200 a month or something like that, right? So, and I'm not telling you to throw your money at every shiny object, but really beginning to invest in yourself. My first investments in myself as a real estate agent was I turned the radio off in my car, right? When I was driving from North Dallas to Fort Worth, which might be a hour ride, my car became a classroom. That's where I started listening to podcasts. If I wasn't listening to those podcasts, I probably wouldn't have one. Right. So I started learning different things. And then when I was able to, then I joined a team and then I started investing in, different courses and different things that would support me along the journey and investing back in the business. And then all of those investments would show back up. So those are some of the mindset blocks that I see. And then also, like, this is the last one I'm gonna say, is like sometimes real estate can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I just need to manifest this and I can do that. And girl, we ain't doing nothing unless the Lord say we doing it, right? So just really getting clear with God on, do you have, like, what do you have me here for? Right? Am I operating in my own will? Am I operating in your will? Okay. And if I'm operating in your will, make it clear to me, because it's gonna get hard. And when it gets hard, I need to remind myself that you have me here for a purpose greater than me. And the quicker that we figure that out in any area of our life, I feel like the better you're gonna be.
Awesome. So I love how you always infuse your faith into what you're doing. That's one of the things I admire about you, right? So I'm wondering, did you always have that with you, or is that something you kind of began to do when you, like, were you so grounded in your faith when you were a teacher, same, or did it take more as a realtor, and then even being able to openly just be like, yo, I represent Christ. That's what it is. How you doing? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So yes and no and yes and no. So my teaching career, so I've always loved the Lord. I have definitely gotten to know him more intimately over the past, decade or so since I relocated to Texas and became a real estate agent, in part because I started telling my town where to go and I started to prioritize just getting quiet with God. I used to do sneak stuff. You can't really talk about Jesus at school, but I
Mhm.
used to do stuff like, when my kids would have a writing assignment, we would listen to like worship instrumental music, stuff like that. But quite honestly, Danila, like when what ended up happening to me, and we probably can end on this, is that, I started getting all of this outward success, which was pretty cool. Like me and my husband hit seven figures for the first time. I got crazy amount of awards. I've sold, a lot of real estate, right? But then it was like, but there was a point where I had more money in the bank than I ever had, more notoriety, like people were putting some respect on my name, right? But I held my mom as she was dying. And
Mhm.
none of that, like you know what the money did for me in that moment? It freed me up so
Mhm.
that I didn't have to talk to a boss or ask for PTO. So I definitely like this sounds crazy. There was a time when my mom was making her transition. I was holding her and I was thinking to myself, this is why time blocking is so important. And that's such a crazy thing to think. But I was like, because of all those days that I time blocked and I showed up for my business when I didn't want to, and I showed up on social media, like now I have the freedom to fully be present and be here in this moment. I don't have to divide my time
Yeah.
because I have the freedom that this business could afford me. But at the same token, every dollar in my bank account couldn't bring her out of what we were going through. So to answer your question, I think about myself as a business person. I want my experience with the client to be so great that they are compelled to tell somebody like, oh, you want to sell a house? You got to call Rosemary because she's going to do this and do that. If that's what I expect, then how can I not be compelled to share Jesus everywhere I go?
Mm.
Because he has literally transformed everything from the inside out for me. And I know that a lot of besties will hear this and a lot of people come to the podcast and they're coming, wanting these outward things, but it's the inner work that only can happen through the blood of a risen savior, right? That will completely transform who we are and how we show up. And I am compelled to, like, that is the best referral that I can give. And I'm just compelled. And I think that the more that I grow in my faith with my own coach who has challenged me, like, girl, I feel like I've always talked like this in my circles of friends,
Mhm.
but God didn't give me a platform just to make Rosemary's name great. It's to make his name great. So that's why we're here.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Rosemary. I appreciate this opportunity. This was everything. I hope everybody got what they wanted to get out of it. Prayed before the podcast started. So hopefully, and I definitely got what I needed. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And Danila, listen, we got something to tell the besties. First, I kicked you out of coaching. I told you you couldn't be a part of
Yeah.
coaching.
And I respect that. I appreciate that too. That's how you know it's real too, though. But I was like, oh, I can't do coaching.
I was like, yeah, no, 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 no. Handle coaching because you needed a little bit more of foundation. So we are starting a Bestie Bootcamp. So if you are, and let's define new. Like if you just don't have the foundation and don't have the business that you want, it really starts with the basics. So in Bestie Bootcamp, it is a cohort with me. You're going to get Real Estate Bestie Academy, and we're going to set up the foundation for your business. So I know Danila is going to be a part of it.
Yes.
If you too want to be a part of the Bestie Bootcamp, we are starting. Like, go to rosemarylewis.com/bootcamp to be a part of it. And I love that we ended on a faith element because I will tell you that that's something that's represented in every area of real estate bestie. So boot camp is very much strategy, it's skill, but it's also keeping the main thing the main thing. And I'm so excited. I'm excited to do it again. It's one of my favorite things to do is to welcome besties into the boot camp.
Thank you. Yay. Sign me up.
Yes, yes. And speaking of sign you up, Danila, let the people know, like how if they're in your area, what area you in. So if
Mhm.
they have referrals, for a real estate bestie, we want them to be able to check in with you. So where do they get you?
Yes, so I am in Los Angeles, California. So I service all the little areas, guys, the surrounding areas. I can do Los Angeles County, Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside, all those. Just hit up your girl and she'll help you out, okay? So you can reach me at Danila James, Danila, and then James, James on Facebook. And then my Instagram, I'm working on the job, but it's called Real Estate with Danila. And then you can also call my work phone, 562-669-8770. Thank
Okay.
you.
And we will have all of your links and everything right there. She gonna get that Instagram together so y'all
Let's
can
get
so
it
y'all can
together,
check her out.
y'all. Yes, thank you.
All right, besties. Love y'all.
Bye. Love you, besties.
If you enjoyed this episode and you have a real life bestie that you think it would resonate with, y'all, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that share button because you know what? We are better together. Make sure you share the podcast, and I appreciate your reviews. I appreciate you giving me 5 stars more than you know. I'll talk to you next week.